A few weeks ago, I did a lesson. It was called Have a Seat, and I talked about Abraham and Lot. Some of you were here for that lesson, and some of you were not. Well, I think I left some people a little confused because I was trying to put so much in one lesson. I have a tendency to do that sometimes. So I'm going to do a review of what we talked about, and then I'm going to expand from that. But the lesson is titled tonight, Truth or Consequences. And the reason why I think that lesson spoke to me was because some of us are walking in truth, and some of us are walking based on the choices that we make and then the consequences that arise because of those choices. And that is not the way this walk should be. Amen. We should not be walking and living based on the bad decisions that we make and have to continuously experience the consequences of those choices. So we talked about Abraham and Lot, and if you have a chance, I hope you get a moment to look at Genesis chapter 18 and 19. And I'm not going to go through all of that again because I did it before, but you will see the difference between Abraham's life and Lot's life based on one thing only, is where they chose to sit. And we learned that Abraham chose to sit in the promised land. He didn't go in the city, so he was not influenced by the activities of the people around him. He lived in a tent. That meant he was ready. He was yielded. He was open. At a moment's notice, if God had given him a word, he could just pack up his tent and go. Well, we learned that Lot chose to sit in the gates of Sodom. So he made a choice to sit in a city that was evil, that had evil influences. And not only was he sitting in the gate meant that he was actually an important part of that city. So it wasn't that he just chose to live there. He got involved in everything that was going on. But the Bible tells us that he was righteous. That Lot was righteous. So I think that some of us can find ourselves in situations like that, where we are in the midst of wicked and evil forces. And we do tend to get involved in some of the things that those people are involved in. And so this lesson is going to show you that when you make that choice, though, the consequences are, I don't know how to say it, it's like something you never, ever want to experience. And we learned that from Lot, and I'm going to show you that in Lot's life. How many of you remember that show, Truth or Consequences? Anybody remember that? Some of us older people will remember that. Some of the younger ones, not so much. I already saw your hand. But it was a game show called Truth or Consequences. And the gist of that show was, at the truth portion of it, you had to answer these questions. And if you didn't answer it truthfully or didn't understand which one of those questions were the truth versus one that was false, you had to suffer the consequences. So that's what I'm talking about today. You're either going to live by truth, your inner knowing, or you're just going to live by consequences. Now, here's a principle. You are free to choose. You're free to choose where you want to sit. But you are not free from the consequences of that choice. You have to experience the consequences of the choices that you make.
Pastor Dave must have rubbed off on you.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So I want you guys to do me a favor. You can jot it down on a piece of paper, or you can just keep it in your mind. But what I want you to do is jot down all the things that you have not given over to God, that you know you should be giving it over to him. And what I mean, it could be a habit that you have that you know maybe may not be so pleasing to God, or not even pleasing, but just something that you know is hindering your steps and where you could be. It could be some activities that you're involved in. It could be relationships that you may have. It could be some idols that you are dealing with in your life, things that you put before God, some traits that you have. But I want you to jot them down, because we're going to do something with those later on. And it's not something that I'm going to ask you to share with the class. This is something that I want you to just keep and write down for yourself. So when we talk about Abraham and Lot, I'm really going to focus on Lot more tonight, because that's the situation where a lot of believers find themselves in. Those of you who weren't here in that lesson, we learned that Sodom, that name Sodom, represented secret habits and activities that are hidden deep within us. That's what Sodom represented. And so that means that Lot chose to sit in a place of hidden secrets. There were things that were going on in Lot's life that he really wasn't being upfront with God in the midst of that environment.
Can you repeat that again? What was that definition again?
Sodom represented the hidden secrets and habits and activities that we keep hidden deep within us. Actually, it's talking about the root of our problems, the root that we really haven't given to God. And then we learned that Lot's name represented those of us who are righteous, yet we try to hold on to those things. So here we are, we have Lot trying to hold on to some things in a place where hidden secrets and traits dwell. That's where he was. And I want you to learn to look at these stories not always from a historical point of view, but the Bible is really spiritual, and it is really a lot of psychology in the book of God. And I'm going to show you what I mean. Because we're going to take these places and names and we're going to compare them to something else. So we remember the story of Lot, and we're going to be coming out of Genesis 19, by the way, if anybody want to go there. So most of us know the story. Lot had some angelic messengers come to his house, didn't he? And they came there for one purpose, and that was to save him from the environment that he was in, because the city was so wicked that God said he would destroy it. So that's why they were there, to rescue him from that place of secret habits and activities. But they found themselves surrounded by the people of that city, didn't they? These people surrounded the house, and they wanted to, and this is their words, send them out to us, your guests, because we want to know them. And we talked about that word know, because in the context of this lesson, we learned that in Genesis 18, the angels also learned that Abraham wanted to know the messengers. He wanted to know them intimately. He wanted to know God intimately. So if we take that same context and put it in Genesis 19, we don't want to take this literal for this lesson. We don't want to say that they wanted to know these angels to rate them or have a relationship. We're going to look at this from a psychological viewpoint, okay? So when they wanted to know these messengers, we learned that it symbolized these people were all of these dark, seducing spirits that were surrounding this holy man's house. And they wanted to know these holy messengers carnally. In other words, they wanted to know these messengers from their way of knowing. They wanted to know these messengers from the flesh. And that is so important. They wanted to corrupt what was holy in you. And that's what these dark forces are around us today. They want to corrupt what is already holy in us, to the point that that holiness is not able to present itself. It stays hidden, it stays repressed, and it stays ineffective. That's what these dark forces want to do. Satan and all these spirits of his. So that's what that represents. How many of us think that we can know God on our terms? Don't you know there are people that are like that? That's what that represented also. They wanted to know God and his holy messengers in an unholy way. Don't you know there's some people that do that? They have their relationship with God. We may not call it holy all the time, but that's what they do. They want a God that they can mold and shape and fit their way of life and their way of thinking. That's what these forces represented to Lot. And that is an abomination to God. You cannot know God that way. There is only one way, and that is through Jesus Christ. That is the only way you can know God, is through the Christ mind, the Christ consciousness, the Christ way. Not any other way. So we learned that Lot in that story, in his attempt to protect what was holy in his house, he offered his 2 daughters to appease these dark spirits. All these people that were coming and wanted to attack what was holy in him. He said, here, take my 2 daughters and do whatever you want with them. And every time we read that story, we say, how could anybody that was righteous and holy offer their 2 daughters to these spirits? And then to say, do whatever you want with them? He offered 2 things that was born from him and willing to give them over to seducing spirits. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to make that very clear. So what do these 2 daughters represent? See, we're not going to look at it from a human point of view. Because if you look at it only from that way, I think we miss the whole gist of what this story is trying to tell us. These 2 daughters, they didn't even have a name. And that really was amazing to me, because I always study names because names have hidden meanings. But these 2 daughters, all through the scriptures, they were just called what? Lot's daughters. So what are your 2 daughters? Your seed. Something that's born from your hidden agendas. Something that's born from your secret habits. What are your 2 daughters? They represent your wrong thoughts and your false beliefs. And we're going to take that and show you how your wrong thoughts and your false beliefs can allow you to have some consequences that you didn't want, that you didn't ask for, that you didn't think would happen. And why would I say daughters would be your thoughts and your false beliefs? Because daughters, females, are the only ones that can give birth to something else. It couldn't be the men. So your thoughts and your false beliefs create and bring birth something else that you didn't want. That's why they're a female entity. Your precious daughters that you raised, that you nurtured, that you cared for, your precious thoughts, your precious beliefs that have been with you in your house from day one, but they came from you. And they were born in Sodom. They were born in this place of secret and hidden activities. Wow. Why would you not give your daughters to God? Why did he not just keep his daughters in the house where they were with the holy messengers? Lot said that his thoughts and his beliefs, his 2 daughters, had not known a man. That means, in other words, they had not been seduced or influenced by the surroundings yet. They were still virgins. So at this moment, these thoughts and beliefs, it was okay. They had not been influenced. You know, sometimes you can have thoughts and beliefs and they're just your thoughts and beliefs. You haven't acted on anything. Nobody has really influenced you in any way. His thoughts and beliefs about God had not been swayed at this point. Even though he was in the midst of all of this evil activity, his two daughters, his thoughts and beliefs had not been seduced. But he offered them to the seducing spirits. Why would you offer them to your lower nature? Why would you say to your lower nature, do with my thoughts and beliefs as you please? Why would you do that? Why would you not give your thoughts and beliefs to God in that holy place? Why would you do that? And we do it every single day. We give them over and say, do with those thoughts and beliefs what you will. Because you think that they're so dark and so secretive that God wouldn't want them. That's why you do it. And so you just give them up. You may not think that God wants your thoughts and beliefs, but he does. You have to give them to him. Because when he gets them, he's going to make a miracle happen. He's going to transform your thoughts and beliefs. He's going to give you some new revelations and understandings about him. But when you don't give those secret things to God and allow them to be taken over by your lower nature, your carnal nature, your flesh, consequences will occur. Consequences. And eventually, these dark forces, these dark spirits, Satan's spirits and helpers, they will take these two daughters of yours and eventually use them against you. And we'll see that happen. They will use your own thoughts and belief against you. And they will continue to give birth over and over and over again until now they begin to affect your descendants and generations of people. That's what will happen if you don't give what you hold dear. I don't care what it is. I don't care how secretive it is. I don't care how impure you think it is. Give it to God. He'll do mighty things with it. So how many daughters have you? What are your thoughts and beliefs about your hidden agendas? Remember those things I told you to put down on a piece of paper? What are your thoughts and beliefs about them? Look at those things you thought about. Think about it for a minute. I ain't going nowhere. What are your thoughts and beliefs about those things that you wrote on that piece of paper? You think you need to give them over to God? Yes. You think you need to reveal some things to God so he can take care of it and transform it into a miracle and change you and transform you and lift you up from that dark place of hidden secrets and agendas that you think he can't see and that you think he don't know about? So we learned that eventually Lot was commanded to flee that place, wasn't he? Do most of you know the story I'm talking about with me not having to go? Because everybody knows the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. So eventually Lot was commanded to flee this place. He commands you to flee this place of hidden secrets and agendas and traits and habits that are stumping your growth, that are keeping you from advancing spiritually. And he told them to flee this place with only his wife and two daughters. He was told to flee this place with his wife, his companion, his female companion, and his thoughts and his beliefs. See, he'll still let you take your thoughts and beliefs with you. You still can take them with you. See? Because he wants to do something with them. But the messengers had to literally take Lot's hand, his wife's hand, and his 2 daughters' hand to make them leave that place. See, they were so rooted in this hidden agenda. You know, and it could be jealousy. Right. It could be strife. Right. It's things that we don't want to admit because we're believers. Right. So we want to keep them all hid. Right. You know, I can't reveal that to nobody. You know, I'm ashamed to admit that. Leave that place. If you want to take your thoughts and beliefs with you, I'll take care of it. But he did that because God had mercy on them, didn't he? That's why he had to take them by the hand. Literally force them out of that place. That's what he's ready and willing to do to you tonight. Right. Those who find themselves in that place. He's willing to take your hand and just yank you from that place. And here's another principle. You have to leave that place in order to begin to experience his grace. You have to leave it first. You got to leave that place. So let's look at Genesis 19. And we're going to look at, starting with verse 17. Genesis 19, 17 through 22. So it came to pass when they had brought them outside, when these messengers had brought them outside, that he said, escape for your life. That's what he's saying to you tonight. Escape for your life. It's urgent. He didn't passively say that. These messengers like, hurry up, you got to get out of this place. They said, do not look behind you, nor stay anywhere in the plain. Escape to the mountains, lest you be destroyed. He's saying that message today. Come into my ark of safety. Escape from these surrounding tendencies to inflict harm and evil conduct and evil conversations and evil relationships and evil ties with people that you escape from that place. Because you will be destroyed if you don't. Some of us are hanging on to people and places and things and situations. He said it's going to destroy you. Right. This is a warning, people. Yes. It's a warning. And what did Lot say? Please, no, my Lord. No. Please, no, my Lord. Indeed now, if your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have increased your mercy which you have shown me by saving my life, but I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil overtake me and I die. Can you believe that? God has taken you out of a place. Yes, he did. He's telling you to go to the mountain. Go to a high place. Yeah. He said, don't stop nowhere in the low place. Yeah. Advance. I want you to grow. I want to lift you up. He said, no, Lord. I can't make it to the high place. Some of us think that. Some of us don't want to go higher in God. Right. Some of us think that's being too spiritual to go there with God. I don't want to go to the mountain. Just let me stay in a low plane. Let me stay in a place that's familiar to me. Yeah, you may have destroyed that place, but this is still familiar to me. Let me go there instead. See, God is trying to remove him completely. God is trying to remove you completely. He said, I'm doing a what? A new thing. Why do you want to keep the old way?
Come on, girl.
The familiar territory.
Come on.
It's new horizons out there for you. It's new places. It's new heights. New levels of understanding. A closer relationship with Him. A unity with Him. But no, Lord.
Go ahead.
I want to stay here in the plain.
Wow.
Lest evil overtake me and I die. He saved you from that. And you still fear. See, Lot had a lot of secret, hidden agendas. That's why he didn't want to leave that place. Sodom was good to him.
Come on now.
Sodom was good. Even though it was a bad place, he reaped benefits in Sodom.
Come on.
And some of us are doing the same thing.
Wow.
We're reaping benefits of the world. It's a good place, Lord. I'll be all right. I'm in it, but I'm not of it. We say that all the time.
Right.
See, we're just justifying that. I'm just here to tell you what God said. He said, we have not gone far away enough.
Right.
We still too much in it. We still a part of it.
Right.
And then he asked if he could flee instead to this nearby town.
Oh, wow.
And he said because it's a little town. See, we think these little things are harmless, don't we?
Come on now.
Yeah, if I just do a little bit of, wrong, God gonna forgive me.
Right.
It's just a small little thing. He'll overlook that.
Right.
Let me go to that place. In verse 20, he says, see, now this city is near enough. Near enough to what? What you just left.
Wow.
He said, it's a little one. Please let me escape there, and my soul shall live. And he said to him, see, I have favored you concerning this thing. Also, in that I will not overthrow this city for which you have spoken. So see, God, even in his mercy, said, okay, go to that city. It was probably a city that was meant to be destroyed. And because you didn't want to advance far enough away from that, he said he's going to spare that city because you, in your fear, wanted to go there. My. See, we think God only answers the prayers of his will. He'll answer the prayers of your little lowly will too. Lowly will. You know, as I said, lowly, he'll grant you that if that's what you want to do.
Wow.
And he said, okay, escape there. In verse 22. For I cannot do anything until you arrive there. I can't do anything until you arrive in that place. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zor. Zor. You know what Zor means?
Go ahead.
Teach us, see.
It means reduced,
Wow.
made small, lessened, smallness and littleness, brought low, despised, and dishonored.
Wow.
And that's where he asked to go. That's where he wanted to dwell. See, it wasn't enough that he chose to sit in Sodom. And now God is coming to release him from that place. That ain't good enough for him. See, some of us are afraid of the heights. We're afraid of heights. We just want to stay in the low places, in the low valley. Here's another principle. When God commands you to flee to the mountaintop, an exalted place, a fixed place, unmovable, unshakable, and you choose to go to Zor instead, you will live in the consequences of that choice.
Wow.
In the place of littleness, in a place of smallness, in a place where you're going to be despised, in a place that is lowly. place of no increase, a place where you will become lessened. That means you're not going to live to your highest potential in that place.
Right.
You're going to just barely get by in that place.
Come on.
See, he said you're going to suffer the consequences of that. That's a principle, if that's what you choose.
Yes, it is.
So now you are left alone with just you and your 2 daughters. You're left alone with your thoughts and with your beliefs. The same thoughts that you had just offered to these seducing spirits, the same thoughts that believed that the whole world had been destroyed. See, that's why those 2 daughters did what they did later on. When God destroyed Sodom, that was their world. See, it ain't all about you. You think just because God destroyed something, he destroyed your world? There's another world out there that he wants you to see. It's not about you. So in Genesis 19 and 34, let's go there. A few verses down. So God in his mercy, he's removed everything from Lot's life, hasn't he? He's empty Lot. But he still has his 2 daughters.
Wow.
This is a turning point. See, when you're left with nothing, where God has emptied you, you only have this, don't you?
Right.
Your thoughts
That's right.
and your beliefs. What are you going to do at this point? See, because you still got a choice. Truth or consequences. Which one you want? You're at rock bottom. There's nothing left for you to become attached to. What must you do? So what did Lot do? What does Genesis 19:34? It said it happened on the next day. Here, let me back up. Let's go to 30. Then Lot went up out of Zoar. He went up out of that low place. Good for him. And he finally dwelt in the mountains. And his 2 daughters were with him. Who were his 2 daughters? And false beliefs. For he was afraid to dwell in Zoar. See? That's the place he wanted to go to. And then that place became a place of fear for him. So he said, okay, well, I'll go to the mountain. See, some of us going to the mountain grudgingly. You know, we're on this walk just barely making it by, you know. Not with faith, but out of fear. We're going to the mountain fearful, y'all. How that sound? That don't even sound right, do it? Now, the first, and he and his 2 daughters dwelt in a cave. So this is what it has come down to. They'd have been empty from this lavish, flourishing city that he was a prominent person. And now him and his thoughts and beliefs are in a cave. That's where he is. And then the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there is no man on the earth to come in to us as is the custom of all the earth. So see, again, they thought that they were the only ones left on the earth.
Right.
It was a wrong thought, wasn't it? See, they believed that they had to do this. See, he was left with his thoughts and beliefs. No matter how wrong it was, but this is what the belief was. So because they thought and believed something that wasn't true, it caused them to do something drastic.
Right.
Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father.
Wow.
Don't you know your wrong thoughts and beliefs want to live just like you do?
Right. That's right.
They want to be preserved.
That's right.
They don't want you to stop thinking wrong thoughts and wrong beliefs. Those evil spirits want you to keep on believing a lie.
Right.
They want to be preserved.
Right.
They want to be preserved. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. He didn't know when she lay down or when she arose. He don't know where the thought came from. It just it was just there. So here's another principle for this one. A wrong thought or belief that has relations with a seducing spirit becomes a dangerous thought.
Wow.
A dangerous thought. See, this thought was so dangerous that it seduced the father. But this is the same father that offered these to the seducing spirits.
Right.
Then I say when you offer your thoughts and beliefs to seducing spirits, they're going to come back and seduce you.
Right, that's right.
That's what happened.
That's deep.
Close relatives committing incest.
That's right.
What happens when close relatives commit incest? What is the result?
Illegitimate.
And they have some issues, don't they? Some of them are deformed. Some of them, their minds are not right.
That's right.
And if people know about it, they are menace to society, really. They're looked down upon, aren't they? But if you think about you doing that very same thing, if you allow your thoughts and belief to be seduced by another spirit, that's spiritual incest.
Right.
We shouldn't be doing that.
That's right.
Our thoughts and beliefs should not be seduced by these type of spirits.
Right.
Because when they are, something's going to be created from that. You cannot fix a problem created in your lower nature from the lower nature. It don't work that way. You cannot do it. It will not work. And that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to fix a problem that was created in evil surroundings, and they were going to fix that problem through the flesh, through their carnal, evil, seducing nature. It does not work.
Amen.
Keeping wrong thoughts and beliefs too long will enable your thoughts to render you incapacitated to the point where your thoughts will begin to seduce you, rendering you helpless. Then they produce and bring forth, gives birth to, more wrong thoughts and beliefs and habits.
That's right.
Then you got double trouble. Because fear, just the act of fear, if you hold on for fearful thoughts long enough, you will become paralyzed in that thing.
Amen.
You'll start believing that this is true. And it will hinder you. And sometimes it get up in your head and can drive you crazy if you allow fearful thoughts to stay in your consciousness long enough.
That's right.
So at this point, Lot has completely succumbed. He has completely given in to his thoughts and false beliefs instead of gaining control over them, instead of inquiring to God about them. That's what he should have done. But as a result, Moab and Ammon are born. 2 children. So you know what he did to his thoughts? He gave life to them. He gave life to them. Now they're not innocent, just innocent thoughts anymore. Now they're alive. Something's been born from them. Something has been created from them. And we know that Moab and Ammon, through the different generations that came after, were a major, major hindrance to God's people.
That's right.
Yes, they were.
And this all started from wrong thoughts and beliefs. Moab means seed of the father. That means that's your seed. You can't put that on nobody else. You have to claim it and make it your own. You did that. That's your seed. That's what it means. The Father's seed. That's yours. It ain't nobody else's. But it's your seed, but it affects other people.
That's right.
And other families and other generations. But it's yours. And then Ammon means a wild, uncultivated state of being. So all these thoughts of sensuality, sin, and ignorance have formed something. And as we saw, what they formed were two children that grew to be a bad influence or a bad hindrance to God's people. You know, when it says wild and uncultivated, that made me think of weeds. You know, soil that haven't been cultivated and taken care of and watered. And when that happens to uncultivated ground, what sprouts up? Weeds. And they take over.
Right.
Well, that's the same thing. That's just a metaphor of what goes on. So 1 Timothy 4:1, remember it says that the Spirit speaks expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils.
Wow.
That's what will happen if you don't get those thoughts, if you don't get those things that you think you're hiding from God, if you don't give them to Him. 1 Thessalonians 5:23 says, now may the peace of God, or may the God of peace, I should say, Himself sanctify you completely, not partially, completely. And listen to this. May your whole spirit, your whole soul, and your whole body be preserved blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. So now we're going to fast forward. Did I lay the foundation for you about Lot and his two daughters? We're going to move forward now. Let's go to Numbers 22. And this is all in line with what happened with where Lot chose to sit. All of this happened because of that. Numbers 22. Actually, we're going to be looking at a lot of verses in 22 through 24. Let's see. I got this new Numbers chapter 22. Okay, we've got three, I held up 6 fingers and said 3. We got 3 characters in this story that we're going to talk about. We've got Balaam, we've got a donkey that ended up talking, and we have Balak. Now keep that in mind. Those are the 3 characters that we are going to focus on in Numbers 22. Now I want you to write this down. Balaam represents the spirit. Remember, he said he wants to complete you spirit, soul, and body. So Balaam represents the spirit. The donkey represents the soul, and Balak represents the body or flesh. Y'all got that? Because in this story, I want you to connect the dots so you can see psychologically what's going on. See, I don't want us to look at this from a historical viewpoint. He's trying to teach you something psychologically about these characters, okay? So, Numbers 22, and chapters 1 through 6. It said, Donna, you want to read that?
Numbers 22, verses 1 through 6?
Yes.
Numbers 22, verses 1 through 6.
Yes.
It says, Then the children of Israel moved and camped in the plains of Moab on the side of the Jordan across from Jericho.
Okay, Moab. Remember that. Still in the plains. Okay, go ahead.
Now Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was exceedingly afraid of the people because they were many. And Moab was sick with dread because of the children of Israel. So Moab said to the elders of Midian, Now this company will lick up everything around us as an ox licks up the grass of the field. And Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of the Moabites at that time. Then he sent messengers to Balaam, the son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river in the land of the sons of his people, to call him, saying, Look, a people has come from Egypt. See, they cover the face of the earth and are settling next to me. Therefore, please come at once. Curse this people for me, for they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I shall be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land. For I know that he whom you bless is blessed, and he whom you curse is cursed.
Okay. Y'all get that? So now this king of Moab, we said Balak represents the flesh. And so he sends for someone that he can relate to, a spirit called Balaam, who is a false prophet, right? And so look at what happened though. Moab now has a king. Your flesh now has a ruler.
All right.
Your flesh is now the ruler.
Right.
You are not ruling your flesh. See what happens when you allow these seducing spirits to take over? So now there's a king who's sending for his spirit. See, the flesh has a spirit too. It has desires and wants and things too. So it's going to always send a spirit that is going to minister to it.
Right.
Your flesh will always desire some things that your spirit don't want no part of.
Right. That's right.
So it's going to send out for this king, this prophet, this false prophet to come and curse these invading armies. There's invading armies of righteousness. This invading army that is God, that is not bothering anybody. They're just passing through. That's what the Spirit does. It passes through. Whoever wants a part of it, He will let you come. Come all who are thirsty. Come all who are hungry. It doesn't matter. But yet, they're passing through, and the flesh has a problem with that. And why did the flesh have a problem with it? Said there's too many of them. They're going to take over.
Right.
They've had all these victories,
Right.
and they're getting too close. See, your flesh is always going to fight against that spirit when they try to come in.
Amen.
It don't want no part of it.
Wow.
It heard about all the victories. You would think that'd be somebody they want to join forces with
Right.
because of the victories. He said, but no. See, we can be like that. We can get to a place that we're so comfortable where we are. When God begins to reveal some spiritual things, you back up and say, no, that's too close.
Right.
I like where I am right now.
Right.
You know, you gotta go out and get rid of them. Curse them spirits.
Wow.
You know, there's some people like that.
Yes, there are.
When they see you coming, they don't want to hear nothing or no parts of what you gotta say.
Right.
And the thing about it, this story is about believers.
Wow.
We're the same way. We can get so caught up in the system that when spirit comes, we're the same way. We don't want to have nothing to do with it. So that's why he sent for this spirit of false prophecy. Afraid they would consume. The flesh was afraid they would consume it. And Balaam means Now, this is the name of this false prophet. His name means not of the people, destruction of the people, a foreigner, a stranger. Remember Jesus said, my sheep know my voice.
Right.
They will not follow a stranger. And sometimes our flesh will call on these false prophets. And we'll go here and there. We want to hear a word
Right.
from somebody else.
Right.
You know. We want them to tickle our ear, tell us what we want to hear. You know. We as believers do that.
Right. That's right.
We do that. Instead of going within, truth or consequences is what this is about. Instead of going to what they know to be true inside. Because God will always speak to his people.
Right.
But we don't always listen.
Right.
That's what that spirit meant. So this spirit Balaam seeks subtle ways to undermine, to destroy the spiritual thoughts that are continually pressing forward to gain a more perfect relationship with you, to give you an expression of truth and knowledge. They're always advancing. The Spirit fills this place. But people that are seeking false prophets, they don't see it. Because it is not according to their agenda. It's not according to the agenda of the fleshly nature. So they don't want any part of it. 2 Peter 2, 15, 16, you don't have to go there, but it says, these false teachers have left the straight path and wandered off to follow the path of Balaam.
Wow.
That's that false spirit, son of Beor. Balaam loved what his wrongdoing earned him. It says that when they sent for Balaam, they offered him all kinds of gold pieces. See, he was benefiting from doing things against the spirit.
Wow.
There are pastors in the pulpit today who are benefiting
That's right.
from turning people away from the spirit.
Wow.
By teaching just nothing but prosperity
Right.
and wealth
Right.
and health.
That's
And
right.
they are becoming richer and richer,
That's right.
and there are people becoming poor and poor.
That's right.
And so that's what this spirit of Balaam is.
That's right.
It stays in power because it has a work to do, and it is benefiting from it.
Wow.
But it also said it earned him, and he was rebuked for his iniquity. A dumb animal, this donkey, which we said represented what? The soul. This dumb animal, this soul that was accustomed to a yoke. See, these false spirits can become so oppressive that it says this soul is accustomed to a yoke, y'all.
Right. That's right.
It's accustomed to being bound and led by whomever.
Right.
That's what they call him, a dumb. Y'all know what I want to say. That's why they call it that. It has no freedom. It is a animal of what? Burdens.
Right.
People just pile things on these animals and they take them on long journeys. That's your soul.
Wow.
It becomes so burdened. And you see in this story that Balaam was the one that was riding on this soul. This false spirit, this false prophet is what's riding on your soul.
Wow.
On your soul. And you are becoming yoked and burdened and oppressed because of it. So look at this. So this flesh wants, let's go down to, let's talk about this soul now. Let's go down to verse 22. We're still in chapter 22. And we're going to go down to verse 22. So Balaam, this spirit, is on its way to do the bidding of the flesh. And it's going to curse God's people. So this spirit, Balaam, rose in the morning, saddled his donkey, see, that burdened soul, and went with the princes of Moab. Then God's anger was aroused because he went. And the angel of the Lord took his stand in the way as an adversary against him. And he was riding on his soul, on his donkey. And his 2 servants were with him. Now the donkey saw the angel of the Lord. See, your soul can see things that your flesh can't see. And that false spirit can't see. And this donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. And the donkey turned aside out of the way and went into the field. So Balaam struck the donkey to turn her back onto the road. See how your soul can get tossed and turned to and fro? Your soul is trying to go away. And it sees the angel of the Lord. It sees this angel about to destroy this spirit. And it is really helping the spirit. But the spirit is so blind because it can't see. So what does it do? It beats your soul. It just beats it. Because you're not going where I want to go. Y'all, that happens to us all the time. We're trying to do the right thing. And this spirit and this flesh are working together so hard. And we're just, sometimes I look at the soul like this. The soul is in the center of the body and the spirit, right? So it can either ascend or it can either descend. And depending on the spirit that is operating within that body, that's what's going to happen to it. So it gets beat up by these false spirits of the flesh constantly. It is constantly burdened. How many of you have ever felt so burdened down and heavy that you had to cry out to God to help you get out of this place? See, something is riding your back and it just won't let up. See, that's what that false spirit would do. It would just cause you so much headache and pain and burden. So how long have you been a beast of burden? Balaam was cursing this animal. Balaam was beating this animal. And the only source of his blessing at that time, Balaam's inner voice just kept saying, there's an angel there. And you can't even see it. Your soul will always try to protect you. That inner voice will always try to speak to you. And so the principle of this is the soul eventually becomes so burdened that eventually it collapsed. See, that's what happened in this story. He tried to go one way because he saw this angel with a sword. So he went another way to avoid the angel. Balaam beat him. So then he tried to go another way. Here comes the angel again with this sword, ready to strike that false spirit down. And that soul sees it and it goes another way, and Balaam kicks it and beats it again. And this happened a third time. And finally, the beast was so burdened that it just laid down and said, I can't go no more. I just can't go no more. Why do you keep beating me? That's when the donkey started talking. Why do you keep beating me? Haven't I always done what you asked me to do?
Wow.
See? That's what happened when we let these evil spirits take over. Yeah, they will continue to beat us down. The soul eventually becomes so burdened that eventually it collapses under all of the pressures that the carnal mind of the flesh puts upon it. So I have a question for you. Are you grieving your soul? Are you really grieving your soul that wants to ascend and you just keep descending because you want to stay in a low place? You want to stay in a place that's familiar to you? You know, you like the old way of doing things. You don't want to advance. Or you burdening and creating grievance to your soul? Because the soul is meant to advance. It wants to advance. It wants to go the right way. Look at Exodus 23, 4 and 5. And I thought that was really interesting about the command of what you need to do when you see someone else's donkey. when you see somebody else's soul, what are you supposed to do? And Exodus 23 verses 4 and verses 5. Donnell, you want to read that for me?
Exodus 23, 4 and 5, it says, if you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall surely bring it back to him again.
Your enemy. See, it's something about that soul. He said you don't let your soul just wander and get lost. You got to bring it back to its rightful place.
If
Go
you
ahead.
see the donkey of one who hates you lying under its burden, and you would refrain from helping it, you shall surely help him with it.
See? We always, I don't care if it's our enemy, I don't care if it's somebody that hates us, it's something about that soul. He said, you got to help him. You got to help that burdened soul. You got to help that lost soul whenever you encounter it. And people can see lost souls.
Right.
Can't you spot a person that's just overburdened and just tore down and beat up? He said, you got to restore that person. You got to bring it to its senses. You got to bring it to its place. I thought that was amazing. So eventually, because I didn't have time to go through the whole story, but eventually if you go over to Numbers chapter 31, which we're not going to do, Balaam, this false prophet and spirit, he was eventually killed. And it was amazing to me, he wasn't killed by the angel that had the sword. He was killed by King David. See, there's another king. See, there's a king of the flesh, but there's also a king of the spirit.
Right.
And that's who killed him.
Right.
David.
Right.
The one after God's own heart slew that false prophet and that spirit that wanted to curse everything that was good in your life. David did that. So Lot lost everything that was dear to him. But his downfall was where he chose to sit and what he chose to do with his thoughts and his beliefs. I'm going to tell you something. When God took me through the process, because I could really relate to this story, when God took me through this process of removing everything from my life, these things that I had always held so dear to my heart, and even my most profoundest beliefs. And I shared this with a lot of you that for 2 years, he just took me away from everything. It was just me and him. And he just, one by one, just took all these thoughts and beliefs that I have. Seriously, took them all away. And he did it in such a profound way that I even began to wonder if there was a God. I mean, that's how much he took from me. And I had this question come up before, is there really a God? And I didn't understand until this lesson, this day, that he had to remove that God from me in order for the one living and true God come and appear. The God that I had was the God that society had told me about, that generations of believers and old pastors had told me about, what other people had told me about. It was not a God that I knew personally.
Right.
It was a God that was just formed and shaped for me. And then as I began to get older, I began to be a part of that forming and shaping of what I thought God should be. And he had to remove that God from me. Remember when the Israelites formed the golden calf? And they were forming a God that would lead them, even though God had just brought them through the Red Sea. And because Moses took so long coming down, they formed and fashioned a God of their own choice. That's the God you have to get rid of.
Come on, sis.
And that's what he did with Lot. He will take you there. So Lot represented those believers who make those kind of choices. And to the point where you are saved, but what did God say? But as through fire.
Right.
Do you really want to live your life like that? Just living based on some wrong choices that you made? He still loves you.
Right.
He's going to save you. But is that the kind of life that you want? The life that Lot had? Or would you want the life that Abraham had? That he lived by faith. And that he walked with sure steps. That every place that the sole of your feet tread upon, I have given you. Not that I got to destroy a place, but I'm giving you holy lands. I'm giving you prosperity. I'm giving you the kingdom. But we walk like Lot sometimes. So, your thoughts and beliefs, your two daughters, will either birth a burdened soul or a liberated soul. It all depends on whether your thoughts and beliefs are causing your soul to ascend higher or descend lower. You are the ruler of that. You are. Do you keep your thoughts only focused on God? Or do you use them to focus on your situations and your circumstances and all the things that you say are troubling you? Is that where your focus is? Because if your thoughts remain there, it's going to spiral out of control. The world is just now beginning to understand and learn that our thoughts and our beliefs create our experiences. Did you know that? See, we didn't know that years ago. But that's how powerful your thoughts and your words and your beliefs are. They create experiences for you. So before I close, I don't want to leave you with this grim depiction. You know, it's a pretty grim picture, but I don't want to leave you there. I don't want to leave you with someone who's living their life just based on wrong decisions and who keep experiencing over and over and over again the consequences of their choices. I want to point you to someone else that sat on a donkey. You know who that was? I want to point you to the man who told his disciples, go into this city. You will find a donkey tied. You will find a soul tied. He said, go into that city and untie that donkey. Loose him and let him go. So he said the same thing to Lazarus. And then that soul, he said, no man has ever ridden on it. It hasn't been burdened. See, that's how he see you. That's your true self. Right. See, but you focusing on your lower nature. But see, he's focusing on your higher nature. He said, you go get that soul, untie it, and bring it to me. Wow. And let me ride upon it. Wow. And see how I'm going to treat you. Wow. He said, come to me, all of you who are burdened and are just beat down. He said, I will give you rest. See, I'm not on a journey to curse your people. He said, I'm going to Jerusalem. They're saying, Hosanna, Hosanna, blessed be the name of the Lord. He's riding on you right now. He said his burden, it's not heavy, it's light. So it's always hope. I don't care what your situation is. See yourself with Jesus. See yourself with the Lord carrying you. Wow. There is no burden when you walk that way. I want to say this. God is ready. I'm telling you, he's getting ready to take us to a place. Amen. He said, but we have to flee to the mountain. He said, quit settling where you are.
Yes, yes.
He said, because in that place, I cannot do what I want to do in your life. He said, but learn of me. Learn of me,
Right.
and I will elevate you.
Wow.
So, do you want to live by truth, or you want to live by consequences? It's your choice.
Amen.
That's it.
Amen.
Glory.